everybody, how's it going? Today we are talking about the finale for Bojack Horseman. Season 6, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's season 6. Yeah, so the final season finally came out here on Netflix, and I binged every single episode in a single day. I jumped off Twitter, I took myself away from the world. That's a weird way of saying that. Basically, I wanted to keep any spoilers at bay. I wanted to watch this in one fell swoop. I wanted to see how this would end. Because so far, Bojack really has proven to be, well, so far it's completed now. Bojack Horseman is one of the best shows when it comes to discussing mental illness, purpose of life, what's the point of it all, the ups and downs of existing. It's a good show discussing those points. It gets a dialogue going. And you have these different characters that represent different facets of mental illness. And you got Bojack being one of the best examples of all. This is a person who is guilt-ridden. He has a horrific past. He means well at times, but his actions don't reflect that. These are very well-written characters, and it makes you feel bad for them, but also accept that they're flawed and that they're messed up and that they need help. And we've been on this journey for again, 6 seasons. I think it's about 15 episodes per season. I'll have to check on that. But we've been doing this for quite a few years now. And here we are at the end. So leading up to Bojack Horseman's finale, I want to acknowledge how when this show first came out, I didn't think much of it. I wasn't a huge fan of the animal characters on human bodies, which is strange because I like anthro characters, but the designs were kind of weird, but they grew on me. This was a show that felt more about it was a comedy about a guy who used to be popular back in the 90s and that his life is now over, in the sense of him trying to find fulfillment with a job or a girl or drinking. What I'm getting at is this show started off as a comedy with bits of drama in it, and then it became a drama with bits of comedy in it. And that transition, I think, went quite well. Now, the show's not perfect. There are some parts where I didn't care for, the direction they were going. Some of these characters felt like they went, to extremes too often. But the main meat of the show remained and was solid. So that being said, I want to talk about the final season here and just give my overall thoughts about the series in its entirety. By the way, spoilers. So we start off this season with Bojack. He's at school. He's following through with his acting profession. He's at the same school as his sister, Holly, and you can see how he's trying to bond more with her to a point where it becomes a bit obsessive. And at first, you're like, okay, he got Bojack living his life. Seems like he was able to go through rehab. He's sober. He's doing better. He means well. It looks like actual, genuine growth, as in he wants to be a better person. But last season ended with those reporters basically tracking down Bojack, as not tracking him down, but on his tail, trying to figure out what exactly happened that night where Sarah Lynn died. Is Bojack associated with murder because of his inactions and how he didn't do what he could have done to save Sarah's life? As a matter of fact, is he the reason why she died? So yes, the first few episodes kind of cement, okay, Bojack is living his life, and then all of his past, like with the Sarah Lynn stuff, with Penny, with just all of this haunting things that you thought were behind him now resurface, and they hit him all at once. Like you can feel the walls closing in on him and how the anxiety clicks and how the recovery that he did make or has made so far is starting to relapse because he's panicking. He's freaking out that this might be the end. Though there is a bit of social commentary in this, discussing cancel culture just for a brief moment, where Bojack at one point's like, so you're telling me that a person who has changed can't move on with life because of what they did, even though they've moved past it and become a better person? It's so funny because this show is about character growth, about these people who are broken getting better, becoming better and growing and trying to become more healthy and fulfilled, but you have their dark past that brings them down. And in a case like Bojack's though, I can see where some of these folks are coming from because Bojack does have responsibility with Sarah's death. So that becomes more of a legal thing. We'll get there. We'll talk about that here in a bit. By the way, these reporters that were tracking down Bojack, I adore their dialogue. The pig reporter, she's like a transatlantic. That's obviously not a good impersonation of her voice. Well, I would catch a scoop on this horse hair. Like that's kind of like her voice with her friend, and how like it's like this transatlantic reporter voice from back in the 20s or 30s. That was wonderful. And then just the alliteration and the wordplay of them talking back and forth to each other. Mwah, chef's kiss. It's great.
Oh, poop! Scoop's thrown the coop!
Go, go, go! Gotta stay in the loop.
Again, last season, Bojack went through therapy, went through rehab, got sober, continued to grow with little road bumps in the way. You see how he is trying to put his past behind him, but this season, his past attacks him all at once. He gets a chance to defend himself, which, funny enough, he did a good job during his interview, and becomes more of a champion for folks who are trying to sober up and be healthy. But then Bojack got carried away, did another interview, though this time the interviewer is like, no, I know what you did. I was told, so I'm coming for you. I'm going for your throat. And you see Bojack's life just fall apart. All the walls closing in, even though he's got his friends there to help him with Peanut Butter, Princess Carolyn, Todd, Diane. It just wasn't enough. By the way, Diane, I like her side story with her like struggling with her depression, how she feels like, is it enough depression to validate who I am and how I struggle? Or am I just complaining? There's a part where she's trying to write her book and you have her abstract thoughts of her trying to write her story, and they have a unique animation to that kind of combines what she's currently struggling through with like her boyfriend and the boyfriend's son, who I like that he kind of came around. That's another thing I like. And then her past with her childhood, her upbringing, how her father really screwed her up. And I feel that Diane is the most relatable characters when it comes to suffering depression. Like, I get that Bojack is like this big celebrity and you got these other characters who struggle, but Diane just seems like one of like, I don't know, she kind of feels like one of the middle of the road, normal, run-of-the-mill people as far as like her upbringing, her livelihood, what she wants to do in life. And that sounds, I'm really butchering this. Basically, it's the most relatable because it feels real. Like this is what an average person would go through with depression and how they would process it and the blame that they carry. Again, this show is very good about discussing mental illness, and they've got these different characters who can serve as a way of being relatable to different people in the audience who are watching. So leading into the final episodes of Bojack, the 15th episode of the season, or I think it's 15th, the second to last episode is called The View from Halfway Down. This episode was a roller coaster, and I don't do this often, but I actually cried while watching it. So again, spoilers, but you have Bojack in this room with his mother, Sarah Lynn, Secretariat, that one actor who hung himself on accident. Who else is in there? Herb Kazaz, a bunch of characters who have been in Bojack's life who have died. And he's in this room as they all put on their own unique performances before they essentially died and fade into oblivion. And my God, if you have existential like crisis or breakdowns like me, then this episode's going to hit you hard. I guess, whatever, I'll say it. I fear death. I do. It freaks me out. And to have this episode talk about the finality of it all was hard to watch, but also great writing, a great story. It's one of the most like fundamental things in human existence. From when we first started to write to this very moment, humans have always struggled wrapping our minds around death and what it means. And you've got Bojack watching each of these characters discuss their life, discuss their deaths, and how they enter into the void. And the moment where Herb said, like, there is no other side, like that just got me. Now, to the people listening to this, who knows what happens after this? I'm getting off track of like talking about this show to get into actual like the philosophy of what life is. So I'm going to bring it back. What I'm getting at is it's a very heavy show or episode, and how they discuss basically one of the most biggest things in the background when it comes to depression and mental illness and life in general is it comes to an end. And Bojack comes face to face with that. He freaks out. It's interesting to see how he processes it, how a person who's so miserable with life is like, I'm not ready to go yet. I still need to find peace. I still need to find closure. And fortunately, we get that. It was a close call, but we get that. And the episode that follows is more of an epilogue where you have Bojack getting said closure and peace with each of the main characters from the show, with Mr. Peanut Butter, with Princess Carolyn, with Todd, and with Diane. And it felt satisfying. There are some parts where it's like there's still some questions out there about, what about Hollyhock? What about Penny? What about yada yada? But we don't need every single character or question answered. It's sometimes okay just to leave some mystery to it. And I appreciate that. And but for where it really matters with these main characters, we get that closure. I thought Mr. Peanut Butter's story was kind of weird this season. It felt kind of rushed, but I guess he got to where he wanted to be in life. Same thing with Todd. I like Princess Carolyn. I like her story and where she ended up. Same with Diane, and also with Bojack ultimately. So overall, this is a fantastic show, and it is one of the best shows ever when it comes to discussing, again, mental illness, finding peace, closure, purpose, things in life that are very fundamental to the human existence, the human experience, and how we can relate to it. And I appreciate that this show was mature. It was artistic. That episode about death felt like I was watching a David Lynch film, the way they presented it. And I see Bojack as a wonderful example of how animation can be used to tell serious stories. It doesn't have to be just for kids. It doesn't have to be pandering. It doesn't have to be lowbrow. We can talk about serious topics. It's not a genre, it's a medium, and it was used in a way to tell good stories about good characters and the struggles they go through. So, well done, Bojack. Glad to see completed. It was satisfying. Again, I have some qualms here and there, but nothing nearly enough to be like really upset about. And yeah, a good show, good finale. If you've seen the finale, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching the video. See y'all next time.